Lily checked her watch and smiled. 3 hours early. James wasn't expecting her until tonight, and she couldn't wait to see the look on his face when she walked through the door. The business trip had ended sooner than planned, and now all she wanted was to fall into her husband's arms after 2 long weeks away. She parked her car in the driveway, noticing Rebecca's blue sedan. Her best friend must have stopped by to check on James, just as Lily had asked her to do while she was gone. That was Rebecca, always reliable, always there when needed. For 15 years, through college, first jobs, breakups, and finally, Lily's wedding to James, Rebecca had been her rock. Lily grabbed her suitcase from the trunk and walked quietly to the front door. Maybe she could surprise both of them. The key turned silently in the lock, and she stepped into the cool air of the house. Soft music played from the living room. Lily left her suitcase by the door and moved quietly down the hallway, anticipation building in her chest. She would call out to them in just a moment, but first. She stopped at the living room entrance, her body frozen. There on the couch sat James, her husband of 5 years, with Rebecca straddling his lap. His hands cradled her face as they kissed deeply, passionately, completely lost in each other. Neither noticed Lily standing there, her heart shattering into 1,000 pieces. Time seemed to stop. Lily couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't make a sound. The wine glasses on the coffee table, the dimmed lights, Rebecca's fingers running through James's hair. Everything burned into her mind in vivid detail. Somehow, Lily managed to step backward without making a noise. Her body moved on autopilot as she retrieved her suitcase and slipped out the front door, closing it as quietly as she had opened it. Only when she was back in her car did the first sob escape her throat. She drove aimlessly, tears blurring her vision. Her phone buzzed several times, probably James wondering who had opened and closed the front door, but she couldn't bear to look at it. Not now. Not when her entire world had just collapsed. Memories flashed through her mind as she drove. Rebecca helping her pick out her wedding dress, James promising to love her forever at the altar, the three of them laughing together at their dinner table just last month. Had it all been a lie? How long had this been going on? Eventually, Lily found herself at a hotel 20 miles from home. The receptionist glanced at her red eyes but asked no questions as she handed over her credit card. In the sterile safety of the hotel room, Lily finally looked at her phone. 5 missed calls from James, 3 from Rebecca. A text from James. Someone was at the door. Was it you? Another. Lily, please call me back. I'm worried. From Rebecca. We need to talk. Please call me. Lily turned off her phone and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing. The image of them together played over and over in her mind. Her husband. Her best friend. She should have seen it coming. The late nights when Rebecca came over while Lily worked on important presentations. The inside jokes they seemed to share lately. The way James had been distant in bed, claiming tiredness or stress. But she had trusted them both completely. Rebecca, who had held her hand at her father's funeral. James, who had promised to be faithful through good times and bad. Now, alone in a hotel room with her life in pieces, Lily wondered if she could ever trust anyone again. Tomorrow she would have to face them. Tomorrow she would have to decide what to do about her marriage, her friendship, her whole life. But tonight she would allow herself to break apart completely. Lily woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar curtains. For one blissful moment, she forgot everything. Then reality crashed down, and the knot in her stomach tightened. She checked her phone. 23 missed calls, 15 text messages. Her finger hovered over James's name, and finally she pressed call. Lily, where are you? Are you okay? James's voice was frantic. I've been worried sick. I saw you, she said, her voice surprisingly steady. I came home early yesterday. I saw you with Rebecca. The silence on the other end stretched for several heartbeats. I need to see you, James finally said. Please come home so we can talk. I can't look at you right now. Then I'll come to you. Just tell me where you are. Part of her wanted to hang up, to make him suffer in uncertainty the way she had suffered seeing him with Rebecca. But another part needed answers. I'm at the Lakeside Hotel, room 214. I'll be there in 30 minutes. She hung up and dragged herself to the shower, letting hot water wash over her as she tried to prepare for seeing him. What could he possibly say to make this right? When the knock came, Lily opened the door and faced her husband. James looked terrible. Unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, hair a mess. Good, she thought. Lily, I'm so sorry, he began as soon as the door closed behind him. What you saw, it wasn't what it looked like. You weren't kissing my best friend on our couch? Her voice was razor sharp. No, I mean, yes, but... He ran his hands through his hair. It just happened. It was the first time, I swear to you. Don't lie to me, James. Not now. I'm not lying. He reached for her hand, but she stepped back. Rebecca came over to drop off some books you'd left at her place. We got talking, had some wine, and I don't know. It just happened. Things like that don't just happen, Lily said. You don't accidentally end up with your wife's best friend straddling you. James sank onto the edge of the bed, head in his hands. I've been lonely, Lily. You're gone all the time with work. Weeks at a stretch sometimes. So this is my fault? No. God, no, I'm not blaming you. What I did was wrong, completely wrong. Lily's phone buzzed with another text from Rebecca. Please let me explain. I never meant to hurt you. James noticed. Has Rebecca contacted you? She won't stop texting. 15 years of friendship, and this is how she repays me. She feels terrible. We both do. How comforting. Lily walked to the window, putting distance between them. Have you been sleeping with her? No. James looked up, eyes wide. It was just that kiss. Nothing more has happened between us. Lily wasn't sure she believed him. Do you have feelings for her? James hesitated too long before answering. I care about Rebecca as your friend. Don't insult me with half-truths. He sighed. I don't know what I feel. I'm confused. But I love you, Lily. You're my wife. Her phone buzzed again. Rebecca was calling now. You should answer it, James said quietly. Hear her side too. Why? So you can get your story straight? Because she's been your friend for 15 years and you deserve the full truth. Lily stared at the phone until it stopped ringing. Could she bear to hear Rebecca's voice? To listen to her excuses? I need time, she finally said. Away from both of you. What does that mean? Fear flashed across James's face. It means I'm not coming home today. I need to think. Lily, please. You broke us, James. You and Rebecca. Now I need space to decide if anything can be fixed. He stood, reaching for her again, and this time she didn't move away. His familiar touch sent conflicting waves of comfort and revulsion through her body. I'll do anything, he whispered, his forehead touching hers. Whatever it takes. For a moment, with his scent surrounding her and his warmth so close, Lily almost gave in. Almost. Instead, she stepped back. Go home, James. I'll contact you when I'm ready. After he left, Lily sat alone in the quiet room. Her phone buzzed again with Rebecca's name. Taking a deep breath, she answered. We need to talk, she said simply. Lily chose a public place for their meeting, a busy coffee shop where neither of them would make a scene. She arrived early, picking a table in the corner. When Rebecca walked in, Lily almost didn't recognize her. Her normally perfect hair was pulled back messily, and dark circles shadowed her eyes. Thank you for meeting me, Rebecca said, sliding into the seat across from Lily. Her hands shook as she placed them on the table. I want the truth, Lily said. All of it. Rebecca nodded, taking a deep breath. What happened with James wasn't planned, but it also wasn't just a random kiss. Lily's stomach tightened. What does that mean? James and we've grown close over the past few months, while you were away on business trips. How close? Lily's voice was barely above a whisper. We never slept together. I swear on my life. Rebecca looked directly into Lily's eyes. But we talked, a lot. About everything. He was lonely, and I was there. I asked you to check on him, as a friend. I know. Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. I didn't mean for feelings to develop. I fought against them. We both did. Feelings. Lily repeated the word like it was poison. You developed feelings for my husband. He missed you, Lily. You're gone so much. And when you're home, you're distracted with work. He felt like he was losing you. Anger flared in Lily's chest. So this is my fault. No. That's not what I'm saying. Rebecca wiped at her eyes. What we did was wrong. I betrayed you in the worst possible way, but I think you deserve to know it wasn't just some drunk mistake. It was the result of months of connection. The word hit Lily like a slap. Connection. While she had been working hard to build their future, her husband and best friend had been building a connection behind her back. Did you plan to tell me? Or would you have just kept sneaking around? There was no sneaking. That kiss was the first time anything physical happened between us. Rebecca reached for Lily's hand, but Lily pulled away. And it made us both realize how far things had gone. Too far. We were going to end it. And what? The affair you claim wasn't an affair? The emotional connection. The time spent together. Rebecca's voice broke. I love you, Lily. You've been my best friend for 15 years. I hate myself for hurting you. Lily stared at her, this woman she had trusted with everything. When did it start? This connection. Rebecca looked down at her hands. Remember when you missed my birthday because of that conference in Chicago? James came alone to my party. We talked all night about everything, how we both missed you, how things were changing. 6 months ago, while Lily had been securing the promotion that would give them financial security for years to come, her husband had been forming a bond with her best friend. I need to know one thing, Lily said, her voice surprisingly calm. Are you in love with him? Rebecca's silence was answer enough. And is he in love with you? I don't know, Rebecca whispered. Maybe, but he loves you more. He chose you. We both chose your friendship over our feelings. How noble of you, Lily said, the bitterness rising in her throat. Choosing me after betraying me. Lily, please. I trusted you both completely. Lily stood up, unable to sit across from Rebecca any longer. You were family to me. We still can be. People make mistakes, terrible ones, but we can heal from this. Lily looked down at the woman who had been her confidant since college. I don't know if I can forgive this. I understand. Tears streamed down Rebecca's face now, but I want you to know I'll wait, however long it takes. Our friendship means everything to me. You should have thought of that before you fell for my husband. Lily walked out of the coffee shop, the cool air hitting her tear-stained face. Her phone buzzed with a text from James. How did it go? Can we talk tonight? She stared at his message, realizing something that made her heart sink even further. Both James and Rebecca had admitted to an emotional connection spanning months, not just a physical mistake. They had shared thoughts, feelings, and secrets while she was away working to build their future. The betrayal ran deeper than a kiss. Much deeper. And for the first time, Lily wondered if her marriage was truly worth saving. Lily didn't go home that night. Instead, she checked into a different hotel and called her boss to request a week off. For once, her work could wait. She needed time to think. 3 days passed in a blur of room service, mindless television, and ignored phone calls. On the 4th day, her boss called. Lily, I'm worried about you, Janet said when Lily finally answered. This isn't like you. Taking time off in the middle of the Thompson project. I'm dealing with some personal issues. Must be serious. Janet paused. Look, why did you take a proper break? 2 weeks. The project can wait. Lily was about to refuse when Janet added, That's not a request. You've worked nonstop for 18 months. Whatever's happening, you need real time to deal with it. After hanging up, Lily stared at the ceiling. 2 weeks with nothing to distract her from her crumbling personal life. The thought terrified her. By week's end, Lily finally returned to their house while James was at work. She packed enough clothes for an extended stay and rented a small apartment with a month-to-month lease. She wasn't ready to decide on the marriage, but she needed her own space. When she texted James for a new address, he called immediately. Lily, please. Can't we try to work this out? Come home. This is something I need to do, she said. I'm not filing for divorce. Not yet, but I need space to figure things out. Have you talked to Rebecca? The question stung. Why? Are you worried about her? No, he sighed. I haven't seen or spoken to her since that day. I swear. Good. Keep it that way. She hung up before he could say more. Alone in her new apartment, surrounded by boxes, Lily faced the emptiness of her life outside of work and her relationships with James and Rebecca. When had she last done something just for herself? Before the promotion, before the marriage? On impulse, she signed up for a pottery class. As a girl, she had loved working with clay, feeling it take shape under her fingers. The first class was awkward. She knew no one and her fingers felt clumsy, but by the end she had made a lopsided bowl that made her smile. "Not bad for a first try," said a voice behind her. She turned to see a man about her age admiring her work. He had kind eyes and paint-splattered hands. "I'm terrible," she laughed. But it felt good. "I'm Tom," he said. "First-time potter but long-time painter. The center needed an instructor for the kids' art class, and they're making me take all the adult classes too." "I'm Lily," she replied, surprised at how easily she was talking to this stranger. "Well, Lily, want to grab coffee? There's a decent place next door." She hesitated, then nodded. Why not? Her life was already upside down. Over coffee, Tom talked about his art and asked about her work. Not once did he ask personal questions that might lead to her explaining her situation. It was refreshing to just be Lily, not James's wife or Rebecca's friend or even the company's rising star. "Same time next week?" Tom asked as they parted ways. "I'll be there," she promised. That night, she spent hours researching pottery techniques online. For the first time in weeks, she didn't fall asleep thinking about James and Rebecca. The next morning, she woke to another text from James. "I miss you. The house feels empty without you." Instead of the sharp pain she expected, Lily felt a dull ache. She typed back, "I need more time." Her phone rang immediately, but she didn't answer. Instead, she put on her running shoes and headed to the park. As her feet pounded the pavement, Lily realized something important. The person she missed most wasn't James or Rebecca, it was herself, the Lily who had dreams and hobbies and joy before she buried everything under work and responsibilities. Maybe this separation wasn't just about deciding whether to forgive James. Maybe it was about rediscovering who she was when she wasn't defined by her relationships. And for the first time since she'd seen that kiss, Lily felt something close to hope. 4 weeks passed. Lily fell into a new routine: work during the day, pottery class twice a week, and runs in the park every morning. She spoke to James only when necessary, usually about bills or the house. Rebecca had stopped calling after Lily blocked her number. One Saturday morning, while browsing a farmer's market, Lily bumped into someone, spilling her coffee. "I'm so sorry," she began, then froze. It was James. "Lily." He looked as surprised as she felt. "I didn't expect to see you here." She didn't know what to say. He looked different, thinner with the beginnings of a beard, but his eyes were the same warm brown that had made her fall in love years ago. "How are you?" he asked, breaking the awkward silence. "I'm okay." She was surprised to realize it was true. "You?" "Managing." He shifted uncomfortably. "I miss you." The words hung between them. Lily looked away, noticing a pottery stall nearby. "I should go." "Wait," James touched her arm. "Could we get coffee? Just to talk." Every instinct told her to refuse, but something made her nod. "There's a place around the corner." At the coffee shop, they sat across from each other like strangers. James stirred his coffee endlessly. "You look good," he finally said. "Different somehow." "I feel different," she admitted. "I've been taking pottery classes and running." "You always talked about getting back into pottery." He smiled slightly. "Remember that ugly vase you made in college that you refused to throw away?" Despite herself, Lily smiled at the memory. It wasn't ugly, it was abstract. It was hideous, and you know it. His laugh was familiar and strange at the same time. A comfortable silence fell between them, surprising Lily. She'd expected anger or pain, not this strange peace. "I've been seeing a therapist," James said suddenly, "trying to understand why I did what I did. Why I hurt you." Lily stiffened. "And have you figured it out?" "Some of it." He looked directly at her. "I was lonely, yes, but that's not an excuse. I should have talked to you instead of turning to Rebecca. I think I was afraid." "Of what?" "Losing you. You were so focused on your career, moving up so quickly. I felt left behind." He shook his head. "But instead of supporting you, I sought comfort elsewhere. It was selfish and stupid." Lily thought of the long hours she'd worked, the trips she'd taken, the distracted conversations when she was home but still mentally at the office. "I wasn't very present," she admitted quietly, "even when I was physically there." "That doesn't justify what I did." James reached across the table, stopping just short of touching her hand. Nothing justifies betraying you with Rebecca. The mention of her name still hurt, but less than before. Have you seen her? No. He pulled his hand back. She reached out a few times, but I didn't respond. It wouldn't be right. Lily nodded, feeling a strange mixture of relief and sadness. I've been thinking a lot about us, about our marriage. And, his voice was barely a whisper, I don't know yet. She took a deep breath. But I think I'm almost ready to decide. As they left the coffee shop, James stopped at the door. There's a work dinner next Friday, my company's anniversary thing. I was wondering if you might want to come. As friends, of course. The old Lily would have said no immediately, but the woman she was becoming considered it. I'll think about it, she said. Walking home, her phone buzzed with a text from Tom. Coffee after class tomorrow? I have a new glaze technique to show you. Lily smiled, typing back a quick yes. She enjoyed Tom's company, his easy laugh, his passion for art, his complete ignorance of her personal drama. With him, she could just be herself. That night, Lily sat on her apartment balcony, watching the sunset. For the first time since discovering James and Rebecca, she felt truly at peace. Not because she had forgiven them, she wasn't sure she ever fully would, but because she had discovered something more important, the person she wanted to be, with or without them in her life. And tomorrow, she would decide what that life would look like. Lily decided to attend James's work dinner. She wore a blue dress she'd bought since moving out, something James had never seen. When he picked her up, his eyes widened. You look beautiful, he said softly. The evening was surprisingly pleasant. James's colleagues welcomed her warmly, asking about her work and commenting on how nice it was to see her again. She realized how long it had been since she'd attended one of these events, too busy with her own career to participate in his. James kept a respectful distance, never pushing for more than she offered, but his eyes followed her all night. When his boss complimented their wonderful partnership, neither corrected him. On the drive home, James broke the comfortable silence. Thank you for coming tonight. I had a good time, she admitted. He pulled up to her apartment building, but didn't turn off the engine. Lily, I know I have no right to ask, but have you made a decision about us? She looked at his familiar profile in the dim light. I'm still not sure. I understand. His fingers tightened on the steering wheel. Take all the time you need. The thing is, she said slowly, I've changed these past months. I'm not the same Lily you married. I know, and I like who you're becoming. He turned to face her. I'd like the chance to know her better. Their eyes met, and for a moment, Lily felt the old pull between them. It would be so easy to fall back into familiar patterns. Good night, James, she said, opening the car door. Good night, he whispered. The next day, Lily went for her usual morning run, her mind swirling with thoughts of James and their evening together. She was so distracted she almost ran into someone. Whoa, careful. Tom caught her shoulders to steady her. You okay? Tom. Sorry, I wasn't watching where I was going. He smiled, his paint-splattered running shoes matching his equally colorful shorts. I didn't know you ran here too. They fell into step together, conversation flowing easily as they circled the park. At the end of their run, Tom hesitated. Would you like to have dinner with me tonight? Not coffee after class, but an actual dinner. Lily froze. Was he asking her on a date? The thought hadn't even occurred to her before. I'm sorry if that's too forward, Tom added quickly. I just enjoy your company and, yes, she said, surprising herself. I'd like that. That evening, dinner with Tom was refreshing. He talked about his art, his failed marriage years ago, his dreams of opening a studio for underprivileged kids. Not once did he make her feel she needed to share more than she wanted to about her own life. When he walked her home, he stopped at her door. I had a really nice time. So did I, she said, meaning it. He leaned in slowly, giving her plenty of time to step away. Instead, she met him halfway. The kiss was gentle, sweet, and completely different from any she'd shared with James. It felt like a new beginning. Good night, Lily, Tom said softly, stepping back. Inside her apartment, Lily touched her lips, confused by the mixture of feelings. The kiss had been nice, but it had also made her think of James, of their history, their connection, their unfinished business. Her phone buzzed with a text from James. Thanks again for last night, it meant a lot. Before she could respond, another text came through from a number she didn't recognize. Lily, it's Rebecca. I know you blocked me, but please, I need to talk to you one last time. It's important. Lily sat heavily on her couch, staring at the two messages. James on one side, representing their past and possibly their future. Tom, a fresh start with no painful history. And now Rebecca, the friend she tried so hard to forget, wanting back into her life. Tomorrow, she had a therapy appointment, something she'd started recently to help process everything. Her therapist had asked her last week what she truly wanted, not what she thought she should want. For the first time, Lily thought she might be ready to answer that question. Lily sat in her therapist's office, fidgeting with the hem of her sweater. You seem troubled today, Dr. Martinez observed. I feel like I'm at a crossroads, Lily admitted. James wants to reconcile. Tom wants to explore what we might have together. And now Rebecca wants to talk. And what do you want? The question hung in the air. Lily had been asking herself that same thing since last night. I want to be happy, she finally said. For so long I thought that meant career success, a stable marriage, the future I'd planned. Now I'm not sure. After her session, Lily made 3 decisions. First, she texted Rebecca, tomorrow, 2 p.m., the coffee shop on Maple. Then she called Tom and explained that while she enjoyed their kiss, she needed time to resolve her past before starting something new. He understood, promising to give her space but letting her know he'd be there when she was ready. Finally, she texted James, can we meet tonight? We need to talk. The hours until evening stretched endlessly. When James knocked on her apartment door, Lily's heart raced in a way she hadn't expected. Come in, she said, stepping aside. He looked good. More like the James she'd fallen in love with years ago. They sat across from each other, an echo of their coffee shop meeting. I've been doing a lot of thinking, Lily began. About us? About what went wrong. James nodded, saying nothing. We both made mistakes, she continued. I buried myself in work, pulling away from you emotionally long before you turned to Rebecca. That doesn't excuse what you did, but I understand it better now. What are you saying? His voice was barely a whisper. I'm saying I'm not ready to give up on us. Not yet. Lily took a deep breath. But I'm not ready to come home either. If we're going to try again, we need to start fresh. Get to know who we are now, not who we were. Hope lit up James's face. Like dating again? Exactly. No promises, no pressure. Just seeing if there's still something worth building on. I'd like that, he said, reaching for her hand. This time she let him take it. There's something else, she added. I'm going to talk to Rebecca tomorrow. His hand stiffened in hers. Are you sure that's a good idea? No, Lily admitted. But I need closure. Whatever happens with us, I can't move forward carrying all this anger toward her. James nodded slowly. I understand. When he left, he kissed her cheek, tentative, gentle, a question rather than a claim. Lily found herself smiling as she closed the door behind him. The next day, facing Rebecca across the coffee shop table was harder than Lily had expected. Her former best friend looked thin and tired, but there was a calmness in her eyes that hadn't been there during their last meeting. Thank you for coming, Rebecca said. You said it was important. Rebecca nodded. I'm moving to Chicago next month. New job, fresh start, but I couldn't leave without seeing you one last time. Lily felt an unexpected pang. Despite everything, the thought of Rebecca leaving for good hurt more than she'd anticipated. I don't expect forgiveness, Rebecca continued. What I did was unforgivable. But I wanted you to know that losing your friendship has been the hardest consequence. Not James, you. Tears welled in Lily's eyes. I trusted you more than anyone. I know. And I'll regret betraying that trust for the rest of my life. Rebecca slid an envelope across the table. This is for you. All the things I couldn't say out loud. As they stood to leave, Rebecca hesitated. Are you and James trying again? We're taking it slow, Lily said. Starting over in a way. Rebecca smiled sadly. He loves you. He always has. She stepped forward, then stopped herself. Goodbye, Lily. Goodbye, Rebecca. Watching her walk away, Lily felt something shift inside her. Not forgiveness exactly, but the beginning of letting go. That evening, she read Rebecca's letter, cried, then tucked it away. She texted Tom to ask if they could still be friends. His warm response made her smile. Then she called James. "Are you free Saturday night for our first date?" As she hung up, Lily gazed around her apartment. The pottery pieces she'd made, the running shoes by the door, the painting from Tom's gallery she'd bought herself. She built a life here, one piece at a time. Whatever happened with James, whether they rebuilt their marriage or eventually parted ways for good, Lily knew one thing for certain: she had found herself again. And that was the most important love story of all.